and I'm the new college and career counselor here. It's nice to meet all of you, and I'm really excited to kick off this journey of college planning and the next process for life after Carmel. So tonight we have a stacked agenda. I'm going to go ahead and dive right into it, but just so all of you know, this presentation is being recorded. I will share out my slides and a copy of the recording in a couple days once it's processed by our CDN network. All right, so to get started, I would like to introduce our counseling department. So many of you already know your day-to-day counselors. These individuals will still serve as your point of contact for any social, emotional, academic, and even part of the college and career planning process. Juniors, you're starting to meet with your counselors now for your first semester check-in, and this is a great opportunity for you to update your counselors on what's going on in your day-to-day life, start talking about life after Carmel, and getting started all about getting ready for second semester of your junior year. Now, next semester, every junior will have what's called a junior planning conference, and that conference will take place with your counselor, and your parents and guardians are invited to attend. And what's great about this conference is that it's all about you. It's an individual meeting that you get to sit down with your counselor and talk a little bit about what you're thinking for life after Carmel, whether that's going on to college, if that's going into the workforce, if that's pursuing a community college. That meeting is all about you. My role here at Carmel is to be that extra layer of support. So I like to think of myself like a consultant. I'm a great resource for any application questions you may have when it comes time for that college planning process. I'm a great resource for any career questions you may have, any major questions you may have. I'm someone that can help you with your essay help, and then I'm also here if you ever need to get in contact with someone specifically at a college. So tonight's agenda, it's pretty packed. We're going to talk a little bit about starting that college search process. I'm going to dive in at a glimpse of what the application process will look like for you next year when you're applying to college as a senior. We're going to talk a little bit about standardized testing, so the ACT and the SAT, and what that component looks like. I'm going to share with you the College and Career Counseling Google site, which is going to be a great resource for you with any questions that you may have. And then we'll talk a little bit about next steps and upcoming dates, and we'll wrap up with a college representative panel. So I have 4 reps from 4 different universities joining us this evening. We'll have a rep from St. Louis University. We'll have someone here from the University of Oklahoma. We'll have an individual from Providence College. And then we'll also have an individual here from Purdue University. So these individuals will talk a little bit about what makes a prime college applicant and what you can do to prep for that next step of applying to a university. So let's talk a little bit about post-graduation opportunities. So tonight's presentation is going to be heavily focused on applying to 4-year colleges. We'll talk a little bit about community colleges, and we'll talk a little bit about other vocational choices, but tonight really will be all about that college application process for that 4-year school. So we're here, the Carmel Counseling Department is here to support you with whatever you choose. We see about 96% of our students go on to a 4-year university. However, if you are someone that doesn't feel that you're ready for that 4-year university, or if you're someone that doesn't think you're ready to go to college either, we're here to support you no matter what. So before I get started with the college process, I'd like to highlight a couple post-graduation opportunities that we'll see some of our students go into. So one area that we typically see our students go into is the military. Now, there are a couple different ways to get into the military. We'll see students enlist straight out of high school, and what that means is that they'll enlist directly into a branch. Typically, we'll see that be Army, Air Force, Navy, the Marine Corps, or the Coast Guard. We have recruiters that visit Carmel that you can meet with if you're interested in enlisting in the military, or if you're not interested, you don't have to talk to them either. We'll see a lot of our students pursue what's called ROTC. Now, ROTC programs, that student will attend a college and pursue military at the same time. We often see our students pursue typically Army, Air Force, and Navy ROTC programs. There are ROTC scholarships out there for students that can qualify for them, but there is one expectation that the ROTC programs do have, and that's that the students will serve in active duty after college. So just know if you're planning to pursue an ROTC program, you will owe a few years of active service after that. The last are the military academies. Now, the military academies are extremely competitive. There are 5 service academies. So if you're thinking that you're someone that's interested in one of these 5 service academies, we really encourage you to start looking at those processes sooner than later, and also start those conversations with your counselor, because they are so competitive, they do start as early as junior year with that application process. Now, to highlight a little bit about the workforce, trades, and vocational, these students will explore opportunities that don't necessarily require college. There are different career pathways that students may pursue, such as technology, healthcare, careers in retail, careers in culinary as well. You typically don't need a degree. However, there are different certificate and apprenticeship programs that you can look into and still have a happy, healthy career and a well-earned income. And then last but not least, you may have heard of what's called a gap year. A gap year is defined as a natural break after high school, and this is a great opportunity for students to gain life experience, learn about a new culture, travel around the world, explore different travel opportunities and different volunteer opportunities, and how you can build on that skill set. Now, if you're someone that's thinking about applying and taking a gap year, our recommendation to you is to apply to the college that you're considering attending, and then you can do what's called deferring your admission. And when you defer your admission, that's when you can apply to different gap year programs to pursue a structured gap program. That way you're actually learning tactical skills that you can take away. Now, there's a wonderful gap year fair that's going to happen January 28th at New Trier High School. And if you're interested in learning more about that, definitely feel free to reach out to me and I can put you in touch with those resources. All right, so when working with students, we have often found that students don't typically know what types of degrees are out there for them. So this slide highlights a little bit about the 2 different pathways that there are when you attend college. So for those of you that are thinking about pursuing a college degree after high school, you're going to be pursuing what's called an undergraduate degree. Now, the undergraduate degree, there are 2 different routes. There's your associate's degree, and that typically takes about 2 years to complete. And then there's also your bachelor's degree, which takes somewhere around 4 years to complete. Most of you will be pursuing one of these 2 degrees. Now, if you're someone that will pursue a bachelor's degree and then ultimately would like to go on to a graduate program and learn more about a specific subject area, you'll pursue either a master's degree or a doctoral or advanced degree. And those degrees take different amounts of time, and they vary in length and time in order to complete that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what's ahead. Right now, we're at junior year. So next semester, like I said, you'll be having that junior planning conference, which will be a time for you to sit down with your counselor and with your parents and guardians if you'd like, and talk all about what's next with planning for life after Carmel. Right now, your goal as a junior is to start to research colleges, different majors, and different careers that could be of interest to you. We recommend that you visit college campuses, you attend college fairs, and then you also meet with different college representatives to hear more in depth about their universities and what their schools have to offer for you. As a junior, we recommend that you register and take either an ACT or SAT, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like in the scope of college admissions later into this presentation. We suggest that you start to build your application list. So this is building your college wish list, where you'd like to apply to, where you're hopeful that you'll be admitted to. And then as a junior, you can even start your college essay. And I'll talk a little bit more about that tonight, but the college essay is definitely one of the more dreaded pieces to the application process that we often see our students struggle with and really kick the can down the road on getting started with. We'll have a college application and essay workshop here over the summer. More information will be shared about that during the second semester, but that's a great opportunity for you to really get started on your applications and fine-tune your college essay. Now, senior year. Senior year is the important year where you're going to be applying to college. This will typically happen in the fall. You'll start applying typically as early as August, maybe even September. You'll continue to edit your college essay. You'll visit college campuses, attend more fairs, meet with those reps to learn a little bit more about the schools that you are applying to. And then you'll really start to hit submit on those applications. If you're a family that you feel you may qualify for financial aid, there's a component called the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, and that will open as early as October 1st of next year. After you're done applying to the colleges, you'll get started on applying for scholarships and different grants to help pay for school. And then you have until May 1st of next year, May 1st of your senior year, to decide where you're going to attend college. And then ultimately, you'll graduate. All right, let's transition into the college search process. So for those of you who have older siblings, those of you who have friends that have gone through this process before, know that the admissions landscape is changing drastically year to year. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look the same as what your older brother and sister went through. COVID really has played an impact on that, so there is definitely a lot of new information and updates that we're excited to share with you tonight. Let's talk a little bit about academic considerations and how this plays a part in your college application process. So NACAC, it's known as the National Association for College Admission Counseling. This is an organization that surveyed colleges across the country. And in this survey, they asked the colleges what factors are most important in the college application process. And you can see up here I have 3 highlighted. Your grades in all of your high school courses, grades in college prep, UCP courses here at Carmel, strength of curriculum of those classes that you've taken here, any standardized testing scores if they're required, and we'll talk more about that essay that you'll complete and send off to the colleges, if you have shown a demonstrated interest in a college and university, any recommendation letters that you may seek from your teachers and counselor, your extracurricular activities, if you need to submit a portfolio, if you decide to submit your AP scores, if a school requires you to have an interview, and then to talk about your work experience if you have a job here in high school. Now, this is just from top to bottom what they deem most important, but what you can see here is that the transcript and that information presented on your transcript, those are the most important components to the application process. Now, we encourage you to double check your transcript from time to time, Parents can access this in their Veracross portal. Students, you can access this in your Maya Learning accounts, and you can just make sure that all of your credits are up to date. Your counselor does this every semester to ensure that you're on track, but it's always nice to have a second set of eyes on there. Let's talk a little bit about our school profile and how that plays in the application process. So on the Carmel Catholic website, as well as my personal website, which I'll share with all of you later, we have what's called a school profile. Now, our school profile will provide detailed information on our school and our community. So this profile will highlight our grading scale, they'll highlight the courses that we offer here, and we'll talk about our different academic programs that we have. Now, the colleges are able to review our school profile, and they're able to see, aligned next to your transcript, how well a student challenged themselves here at Carmel Catholic. And they can also see what courses were offered to them. Now, the one thing to take away from all of this is that students are always evaluated based on the context of where they are coming from to a college. So, for example, our school profile is going to look different from the neighboring public high schools. Our classes, our courses, our grading scale, our curriculum looks different than what the public high schools have to offer, what other private high schools have to offer. So in the admissions process, the colleges will review you from the context and the community that you are coming from. So you are reviewed coming from Carmel Catholic. So coming up in the next couple of months, you are going to have your senior year course registration. Now, juniors, you'll sit down once we get back to campus after winter break, typically in January, and you'll meet with your counselor and you'll start to pick out your senior year courses. This is a completely separate meeting from your junior planning conference. So your senior year course selection is really important. It's important because the colleges will still consider the courses that you're taking your senior year, as well as the grades that you are earning in them. Let me reiterate that again. You cannot have senioritis, you cannot give up, you cannot take easy courses thinking that, oh, hey, I'm into college, I don't have to try that hard anymore. Not the case. The colleges want to see that you are challenging yourself as a senior. They want to see that you are staying on trend with your grade trend and that you're keeping up in your courses. They're looking to see that you're taking that rigorous, challenging curriculum, that you're taking courses that may be aligned to your potential interests of what you'd like to study and what you hope to pursue as a career. They want you to be mindful of a balanced course load. So any changes that are made during that senior year, that means that you have to communicate those to the colleges. So for example, if there's an extenuating circumstance where you need to drop a course for whatever reason, that needs to be communicated to the colleges. If you decide to go down in a level, go up in a level, all of that has to be communicated to the colleges. My suggestion to all of you is to take a look at this slide and to make sure that you're taking the minimum requirements that the colleges are looking for. So that 4-3-3-3-2 course pattern, that aligns to your core courses. So most schools like to see you take at least, you have to take 4 years of English. They like to see at least 3 years of math, at least 3 years of science, at least 3 years of social studies, and then at least 2 to 3 years of the same world language. If you're someone that has taken 4 years of a world language here, you may fulfill that language requirement at your university and not have to take a foreign language there. If you're someone that's thinking, I want to apply to a school out in California, the University of California public colleges require 1 year of visual or performing arts. So that means you have to take 1 credit of visual or performing art here at Carmel in order to be a candidate to apply to a University of California public college. My suggestion to all of you, start to think about the schools that you're interested in and making sure that you're meeting those minimum requirements. I would hate to see you fall short of maybe credits for a school that you were hoping to get into or a program that you were hoping to get into and then not be able to apply to that particular school. All right, so as we're sitting here and we're talking about beginning the college search, what are some things that you should be looking for? To make the most out of your post-secondary planning meeting, it would be ideal for you to start to consider location of a school, cost of a school, the size of a school that you're thinking about, different fields or degrees that are offered, if you're an athlete or if you're looking for a particular sport to be offered that you would like to watch, if religious affiliation is something that's important to you, and then start to think about, do you want to attend a public school or would you like to attend a private school? When it comes time to choosing a school, there are many factors, and these are only to highlight a few. The top 4 factors that most students are looking for are location, cost, size, and fields of study and majors that are offered to them. Now, families, I encourage you to start these dinner table conversations now. That way, when it's time for your senior year, you're not scrambling, trying to come up with a list of schools of where you'd like to apply to. So ask yourself, when it comes to location, how far are you willing to travel? Are you a student that is going to live at home and commute back and forth? Are you someone that you want to get in the car and drive only 3 hours to go to school? Or maybe it's 3 hours round trip. Are you someone that's thinking, hey, I want to go out to the West Coast or the East Coast and know that I can't come home every weekend because that will require me to get on an airplane, which costs money? Those are important factors to think about. Cost. This is a huge factor, but one that I don't want you to discriminate and think, hey, I can't go to college because I can't afford it. There are ways that you can afford college. Will merit aid and financial aid be an important aspect to my college process? By researching these schools, seeing what scholarship dollars they have to offer, seeing if your GPA is something that aligns to that, you're able to see what's affordable to you. What's great is if you go to every college website, there's what's called the net price calculator on their website. So you can go in, you can put in what amount your family makes, and then you're able to see what you would qualify in to have pay for your school and see if you're eligible for any scholarship or grant money at that point. Size. This is a huge component when it comes to colleges. Are you someone that's going to thrive in a lecture hall of 500 people? Are you someone that's going to thrive in a small classroom environment where you're looking to have that individual relationship with your professor that they know you by name? These are important factors that not everybody thinks about, and it's something that can really make or break your academic career in a college. Last but not least, think about the degree that you're hoping to seek and what major you'd like to study. So for many students, if you're thinking about a particular major, make sure that that school, that college actually offers it. You'll find that certain majors are not offered at every college, and then you'll find that there are a ton of majors that are offered at almost every school. If you're thinking of something in particular, make sure that that college and university has that offered to you. The main focus is to always keep in mind that a good school is what meets your needs, not necessarily your friends' needs. So this is a time for you to really reflect on what's important to you and what you're looking for in a school. So when it comes time to developing your college list, we typically say, look at schools in 3 different tiers. Look at your safety schools, look at your target schools, and then look at your reach schools. Now, for those safety schools, we typically recommend that students apply to at least 3 or 4 schools that they feel likely that they'll be admitted to. You feel good that you have the GPA, that you're someone that could get into that school academically. Target schools, this means that you're hopeful, you're on the bubble. We typically say apply to at least 2 or 3 schools that you're on the bubble with and see if you can be admitted to those institutions. With reach schools, this means that you're wishful for admission. Maybe you don't have the academic criteria to be admitted to a school. We really want you to focus on only having 1 or 2 schools that you're wishful for admission, and necessarily you're not sure if you're going to get into it, but hey, you'll feel great if you can at least submit your application and know at the end of the day that you submitted your application there. Now, like I said, we typically see the average Carmel student apply to about 5 to 8 schools. That's different for everyone. Not everyone applies to 5 to 8 schools, but that's the average. We say if you're applying to more than 10, talk to your counselor, because that can make making a decision difficult for you. You may have all these offers, or maybe not any offers, and if you have more than 10 schools on there, it can make making that decision for you difficult. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Maya Learning. So for those of you that have used Naviance in the past, this is our new Naviance. It's our college and career readiness platform. It's a great tool for researching colleges and universities, looking at different careers, looking at different majors, and you can reference what's called a scattergram on there. And the scattergrams are great because you're able to see different Carmel students. You can't see their actual identity, but you can see what their GPA was and if they used a standardized test score in their admission process, and if they were accepted or denied at a school. What's great about the scattergrams is that you're able to get an idea with making that list that I talked about, making your reach, making your target, making your safety schools list, to see how a school would match up for you by looking at those scattergrams. As I mentioned before, you're evaluated coming from Carmel. So you're evaluated in the context of what we offered you at Carmel, and you're able to use that scattergram data to make an educated decision on if a school is in your safety target or reach. Now, juniors, I'm going to be coming into your classes the week of December 5th, and we're going to talk a little bit about Maya Learning, how to utilize it, how to conduct a college search, looking at those scattergrams, and then I'm also going to have all of you take what's called the Interest Profiler Assessment. And this will be a great opportunity for you to evaluate your personalities and see what careers and different interests can align to you. The goal of using the results on that assessment will be when you have your junior planning conference, you can sit down with your counselor and you can talk about different careers that align to you and different potential majors that you can study when you're away at college. Now, when you're a senior, we're going to use Maya Learning a lot. So I like to think of Maya as my assistant. When you're applying to colleges, anything that you put on your college applications, for example, any schools that you're applying to, those will be listed in Maya. That way, we can send our documents from Carmel through Maya to those colleges. So a good idea is to think of this like your electronic post office for any Carmel-related documents. We'll send your transcripts, your recommendation letters, a copy of our school profile to the colleges that you're applying to in Maya. So it's being electronically transported to those schools. And we'll talk more about that senior year. We'll walk through on how to utilize it and the importance of that. All right, so I always like to share this slide of just some admit data from the previous fall. So this data is from fall of 2021. This is last year's admission cycle on what these schools admitted to their applicants in that period. Now, the important thing to take away from this is that admit rates often don't tell the whole story. So for example, if you take a look at University of Wisconsin-Madison, you see that they have a 60% admit rate. Now, this is an extremely competitive school to get into. The one thing to note about Madison is that they have reciprocity with the state of Minnesota. So Wisconsin residents and Minnesota residents tend to be looked at differently than Illinois residents. So these admit rates don't necessarily tell the full story here. A school like the University of Illinois, our flagship, they admit based on the major that you're studying. So for example, if you're thinking about studying computer science or engineering, those are two of their most competitive majors at their university, so that 60% admit rate doesn't necessarily hold true for those majors. The one takeaway from this is that finding the right fit is going to be your best indicator for success, and that means so much more than an admit rate. So just keep that in mind when looking at schools and when you're going on a deep dive in Google and taking a look at all these different admit rates to see if you're able to academically be admitted or not. All right, so many of you juniors have participated in college rep visits during the first semester. We'll be bringing some more rep visits for second semester, and this is a great opportunity for you to meet with different college reps during the school day. So in my office down in the CCRC, you'll be able to sign up for a particular college visit and then meet with that rep for about 40 minutes or so during the school day and learn more about their university. It's a great time for you to learn a snapshot, meet with that rep who may read your physical application, and then ask any questions that may correlate directly with that college or university. I'll send out more information for those of you who haven't signed up for a rep visit before, but you can sign up directly in Veracross and then just seek permission from your teacher to participate in that visit. So the calendar will be coming out after winter break with all of those visits that are going to be available from January to February, or from January to April. So college fairs. There are going to be a number of college fairs available to all of you next semester. These are a great one-stop shop to learn more about a variety of colleges. You can ask questions, you can discover new schools, you can compare information from school to school, and then get to know a different variety of different types of schools. Students and families will have the opportunity to chat with different representatives and then gain some face time with that individual. You can check out the Spring 2023 College Fair calendar at iacac.org, and then I'll also send out information about some local college fairs that are happening around Carmel as well. Carmel will host their own Catholic College Fair here at school during the school day for students only in February, on Friday, February 17th, and we'll have about 20 to 25 Catholic colleges present on campus that you can meet with. All right, so now we're going to transition quickly into talking just a little glimpse about what that application process will look like next year. So like I said, that application process takes place typically fall of senior year, and that can range anywhere from as early as August, even throughout the school year until around April, March or April timeframe. So what's in a completed application? Right now, as juniors, your goal is to research these colleges and start to come up with your list. We'll give you a timeline to help you stay on track next fall, but these are a few things that you can anticipate that you're going to need for your completed application. So one, a completed application is what you're going to need to fill out. Typically, students will find themselves applying directly on a college's website, or they'll find themselves utilizing what's called the Common App. The Common application is an application that has close to 1,000 schools on it that you can apply to, and then you send that same application off to as many schools that you'd like to apply to. You'll find that most college applications will have you complete an essay, and in this essay, you'll talk about a particular prompt that you'll need to answer. So that essay you can start, like I said, as early as your junior year, but you'll find that most colleges will be looking for at least one essay from you. Your transcript. Like I said, we'll talk a little bit about, we'll be sending a copy of your transcript that will talk about the courses that were offered to you, and it will highlight the credits that you've earned and the grades that you've earned in those classes. If a college accepts any recommendation letters, you'll seek these out from your teachers and your counselors. So more information will come about that in the coming months, but those recommendation letters do hold a little bit of weight in the application process. They certainly are not the most important component, but they can definitely help with a student's application. Your standardized test scores, if a school will allow you to submit a standardized test score, that can also play a part in the application process. A school profile, this will highlight our curriculum and grading scale. That will also be sent over. And then lastly, you as a family will pay any college application fees. So these application fees can range anywhere from $25 an application to somewhere around $75 an application. So keep that in mind when you are applying, that it does get costly very quickly. All right, so this is just a little bit of information on what's to come in the coming months, but like I said, in the summer, we will offer an application and essay workshop, and this is a great opportunity for our junior class to come into school during the summer, sit down, and start to work on their college applications, specifically that common application that I was talking about. We'll have different college reps here who will teach our students about different essay writing skills and techniques. We'll have the representatives actually sit down and critique your essay with you, so you're getting that professional feedback from our true experts in the field who read essays every day. And then it'll also give you time to sit down and build your resume and your activities list that all go into your college applications. So more information to come on that. Definitely we'll send out more information probably closer to the April-May timeframe with what our dates will look like and what that workshop will be structured with. All right, so we are going to talk a little bit about standardized testing and ACT and SAT and how that plays a role in the college admissions process. All right, so why test? Standardized test scores are used to aid in the college application review. They can add an additional layer to a student's application that maybe a school did not find in their transcript or in their essay, but it's one more component for the schools to evaluate you on. It also gives the colleges to take a look at the high schools not offering the same academic programs, and it gives the colleges an additional component for them to see. Now, there are some key differences between the ACT and the SAT. So there's no right or wrong test. If a college does accept an ACT or SAT score, they typically will take either one, but our students will typically find that they'll have a preference on which test they like to take. So just some general key differences here. The ACT, you'll see that there's about a quarter of the test, which is math, whereas the SAT, about half the test is math. On the ACT, there is a calculator component, whereas on the SAT, there's a calculator component and then a non-calculator component. The ACT has an optional writing section, whereas the SAT does not. However, I will say if you are thinking about taking the ACT, before signing up for the writing section, check to see if your schools that you're considering actually require you to take the writing section. You'll find that there's only about 6 colleges in the US that do require the writing section for their application process. ACT has a science section, SAT does not. The timing of each question is a little bit different on each test, whereas you might find yourself on the SAT having a couple more seconds per question than on the ACT. If you're someone that you've taken the PSAT before, that's a great indicator to see what a predicted SAT score could look like. Whereas if you've taken a practice ACT, that's a great indicator to see what your ACT score would be. Now, my suggestion to all of you, the best way to prepare for either one of these tests is by taking a practice test and taking a full-length practice test. So really sitting down and giving yourself either the 2 hours and 55 minutes it takes for you to take the ACT or the 3 hours for you to take the SAT, and sitting down and scoring yourself and see how you're doing on these practice tests. Now, all this information will be shared out, but these are some upcoming national ACT dates as well as SAT dates. So oftentimes, we'll get the question in our counseling department of when it's appropriate for a student to test. Now, the junior year curriculum teaches a lot of the content that is often seen on these exams. Most students will take an exam, either an ACT or SAT, in the spring, and then some will choose to wait either till the summer or early fall to do that. Some students will seek out private tutoring opportunities during this time, whereas other juniors might find themselves enrolled in Carmel's ACT prep class. And then if the other two options are not feasible, some students may seek out private resources that they can complete online. So for example, taking a free ACT class or a free SAT class online. Now, if you're sitting here and you're asking yourself, how many times should I prepare to actually take the ACT or SAT? Testing experts say that 2 to 3 times is sufficient enough. And typically, they'll see after that third time, a student's score will plateau and it won't change. So we typically say, try to take a test in the spring, maybe do a little bit of test prep, see how you'll do in the summer or early fall, and then take it at least one other time after that. So 2 to 3 times we recommend. If you're thinking about sitting for a national ACT or a national SAT date, you can register for these exams directly on ACT's website and directly on the College Board's website for SAT. And I'm going to talk briefly about an opportunity that we're going to have here at Carmel for our juniors with the ACT. So we will have an in-school ACT opportunity for the junior class only. This will be offered on Tuesday, April 4th. We will be offering the ACT without writing. Registration will be completed through a Veracross form, and it's due by February 3rd. Now, all of you can expect to get this registration information next week. So the week of December 5th, I'll be emailing home information on how to sign up for the in-school ACT. If you're someone that typically tests with accommodations, that Veracross form will allow you to indicate if you'd like to request testing accommodations for the in-school ACT only. And with that, we'll have an entire process on how our Student Services Department will submit your documentation to ACT for approval to see if you're able to take the in-school exam with your accommodations. And we'll be in touch with more information about that. But be on the lookout next week for an email from me that will give you some information about signing up for this exam. Now let's talk a little bit about some standardized testing vocabulary that you're going to see in the college admissions process. So you've probably heard about this vocab word called test optional. And what that means is that ACT scores and SAT scores are not required to be considered for admission. Now, many schools, when COVID was happening, at the time when we were in a shutdown, many schools moved towards this test optional movement. As of today, there's over 1,800 colleges and universities that are test optional. That means over 80% of four-year schools are test optional. If you choose to send your ACT or SAT scores, they will be considered, but they allow the student to make that decision if they'd like that to be considered in the application process. Now, these colleges who are test optional, they have deemed that standardized testing may not be the best component to evaluate for admission which is why they're offering the student the opportunity to make that decision if you feel that your test score positively reflects your academic ability. So you may have also heard of a term called test flexible. Now, what that means is that your ACT and SAT scores may be required for certain applicants, and if a school is test flexible, they typically prefer to see scores if you have them. Now, at the end of the day, it's still your decision if you want to disclose your test scores or not, but you will find yourself coming across a couple colleges or universities that may say they're a test flexible institution. And our counseling department is here to offer advice if we feel that you should send your scores or not, if you're applying to a school that's test flexible. And then last but not least, you may hear the term test blind or test free. And what that means is that ACT and SAT scores will not be reviewed at all in the application process, even if you submit them. So you'll find that NIU, Northern Illinois University, they are a test blind institution, meaning that they won't look at your test scores at all. So you can always find this information on the school's website. You can also check out what's called fairtest.org, and you can see a list of current test optional schools, and then you can also see the 84 test blind and test free schools on that list. The one thing that I caution all of you about is that many schools, many colleges, have not formally made that decision yet if they're going to continue or decide to be test optional or bring back standardized testing for next year. And our college reps will talk a little bit more about that tonight, but you can expect to have most of those decisions and notifications explained in the spring. So just hang tight a little bit longer, but we will be getting formal word over the next couple of months which schools will be requiring test scores and which schools will continue to be test optional. So let's talk a little bit about applying test optional and test free. So if you decide not to use your ACT or SAT scores in this process, you'll be evaluated upon typically what's called a holistic review. So that means that the colleges will do a deep dive into your application. They'll take a look at the major that you intend to apply to. They'll take a look at your GPA, how your course rigor on your transcript, any essays, and then extracurricular and leadership opportunities that you've taken advantage of. They'll take a look at all of those components and align it to our school profile on what we've had to offer here at Carmel and then our grading scale. And then lastly, keep in mind, like I said earlier, you won't be evaluated the same way as another student from a local high school. So that's typically what happens if you choose not to apply with your test scores. Now, I'm sure many of you are sitting here and you're thinking, okay, should I apply with my test scores? There are two questions that you should ask yourself. One, does the college and university allow it? Will they allow you to apply test optional? A few examples right now. Public colleges in Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, as well as MIT, Purdue, and Georgetown are going to be requiring test scores for the class of 2024. So if you're thinking about applying to some of those schools, you will need a test score for next year. Review specific majors. So for example, direct admit programs to a particular major. Nursing, engineering are a couple examples. Will these programs need you to submit ACT or SAT scores? And if so, consider using them. Think about if a test score is going to impact your scholarship opportunities. So will there be particular scholarships that you will need an ACT or SAT score? For the most part, typically if a school has you apply without a test score, or if they allow you to apply test optional, they won't have that impact your scholarship opportunity, but it's always good to double check it. If you've answered all of those questions, now you're probably thinking, okay, do I send my score or not? The general rule of thumb is that if your score falls close to the mid 50% of admitted test scores published on a college's admission profile, send your score. Now keep in mind that's the mid 50%. Keep in mind that 25% of students are admitted higher than that, and 25% of students are admitted lower than that. So a good rule of thumb is just if your score falls within their mid 50% range, consider sending your scores. So for example, if their mid 50% range is somewhere between a 24 ACT and a 28 ACT, and you have a 26, it may be in your favor to send your score. Now this slide just highlights our class of 2022 statistics, and what's great about it is that we can still see that Carmel Catholic students are continuing to perform well and attend highly selected universities. So you'll see over here our top 20 four-year colleges that were attended. One thing to note is that the College of Lake County was tied for the third most attended. So if you're sitting out here and you're thinking four-year school may not be in the cards for you right away, know that we had a tie for College of Lake County for third most attended. And then you can also see our post-secondary plans. We had about 96% of our students go on to college, and then the other 4% decided to pursue other opportunities like work or enlisting in the military. All of this information is located on our school profile if you wanted to take a little more of a look at it. And then I briefly just wanted to talk a little bit about two-year community colleges. So if you're someone that's considering community college, we typically say apply by March 1st of your senior year. So that gives you the opportunity to really work through the majority of your senior year and decide if you would like to apply to a local community college. And we typically say by March 1st because this ensures that you can register for fall semester on time. However, you can certainly register for community college after March 1st. Attending a community college is a great opportunity for students to ease into that college process. It helps you save money on courses that cost a lot more money at a four-year institution. It's great for students who want to work part-time. And what's really awesome is that not only does College of Lake County, but most community colleges have a wonderful transition program for students who are looking to transition onto a four-year institution. So you can work with an academic advisor at your community college and then look to transfer into a four-year school so all your credits roll over and you're not losing money with that. We might have a College of Lake County field trip in spring of 2023. More info to come on that if you're interested. And then we also will be offering a College of Lake County webinar for Carmel students on Tuesday, January 31st at 6:30. Now, I wanted to draw your attention to a resource that we have here for our students called the College and Career Counseling Google site. What's great about it is that this is my personal website. So I'm adding all college fair information on here. I'm highlighting different tips with applying to colleges, how to utilize Maya Learning, and a ton of other information. So if you have your phone and you'd like to pull up the QR code, feel free to scan it. Otherwise, it's also located in the Veracross portal, and this information is updated often. So juniors, I really encourage all of you to familiarize yourselves with this website, and it will be extremely helpful for you during the planning process as well as senior year when you're actually completing your applications. All right, so let's talk a little bit about next steps and upcoming dates. So like I said, those junior planning conferences, you will receive an email from your counselor in late January regarding scheduling. These meetings will kick off around mid-February, and this will be after our counselors have completed course registration for the entire school. Parents and guardians, you can choose a time that works for you to come into school, sit down and have this meeting with your student and their counselor. Now, if the parents and guardians are unable to attend, the counselor will still seek out that student to have their junior planning conference one-on-one together. So every junior will have this meeting with their counselor. During advisory in January, students will complete a questionnaire that will help drive these planning conversations. So your counselor will have an idea of some of your potential interests, schools that you're thinking about, and then can help suggest schools for you to look at as well. And then parents and guardians, I encourage all of you to start these conversations with your students ahead of time. It's not too early to start it. It doesn't have to happen tonight, but it's something that you can talk about over the next couple of months. That way your student is ready for their junior planning conference. So next steps, take a look at that Google site that I've put together. It will be an incredible source of information for all of you. Get that junior planning conference scheduled in January. Sign up for college rep visits, visit fairs, plan campus visits, begin to research schools and building that considering list of schools that you're hoping to apply to, and then consider taking an ACT or SAT. You can also see that I have a couple upcoming dates here. We'll have that College of Lake County webinar, our Catholic College Fair here during the school day. We'll offer that optional in-school ACT, and then we'll also have our application and essay workshop in the summer. This is my contact information. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to help you and sit down and talk through anything that may be stressing you out. Students, you are more than welcome to schedule an individual appointment with me, stop by my office, and we can chat a little bit more about that as well. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to transition into our college rep panel. So if you'd like to stick around and hear from 4 of our college reps that we have here today, we have Catherine Handcamp from St. Louis University, Scott Hillman from the University of Oklahoma, Megan O'Rourke from Providence College, and Jennifer Tropis from Purdue University, and they will talk a little bit more about what goes into a prime college applicant, as well as some different information about their universities. So we'll transition into that in the next minute or so. But thank you all. If you do decide to leave, thank you all for coming tonight. I'm excited to start this journey with all of you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our panel. I'm going to briefly have each of our panelists introduce themselves, give you their name, and then the school that they're representing. Do you want any information about the school or just? Sure, you give some information as well.
There we go. Okay, hot mic. Hi everyone, my name is Catherine Handcamp. I am the Chicago Regional Counselor for St. Louis University, obviously located in St. Louis, Missouri. We also have a campus in Madrid, Spain. We are a mid-size Catholic university, so we have about 13,000 students total on our campus, around 8,000 at the undergraduate level, and then we are a Jesuit school, one of the 27 Jesuit universities in the U.S.
Hi everyone, my name is Scott Hillman and I am with the University of Oklahoma. We go by OU for short because saying University of Oklahoma over and over again can be a little bit, takes my breath away. Yeah, it takes a little bit much. We are located in Norman, Oklahoma. We are the state flagship institution for Oklahoma, and we have an undergraduate enrollment around 22,000. Norman is a suburb of Oklahoma City, so it's pretty quick and easy to get in and out of that area.
Hi everybody, my name is Megan O'Rourke. I work at Providence College. I am based here in the Chicagoland area and work with all of the students from the Midwest. Providence is not close. It's a plane right away. It's 3 hours, what am I saying? It's 2 hours on a plane and an hour time difference, so East Coast, it's about 45 minutes from Boston. It's 3 hours from New York City. So for those of you that might be interested in going a little bit farther away, this is a great choice. It's a little bit smaller of a school. We have about 4,400 undergrads. Total enrollment is just under 5,000. It's predominantly a liberal arts school, although we've added programs in health sciences as of late. The city of Providence is awesome if you haven't been. It's an old historical city. It's the capital of Rhode Island, but also kind of artsy and fun. So there you go.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Trupis. I am one of the assistant directors of admission in the Office of Admissions for Purdue University, but I'm the Chicago Regional, so I'm specifically based here in the Chicago region for Purdue. Purdue is a large public, out-of-state university located in West Lafayette, Indiana, which is about 2.5 hours from here, give or take with traffic. Although we are known for our STEM majors, predominantly engineering, computer science, science, health sciences, but also known for business, pharmacy, education, and a wonderful liberal arts program as well. Even though we're quite large with an undergraduate class of over 37,000 students, so we're a large public university, our average class size is 25 to 30 students with a 13-to-1 student to faculty ratio.
All right, thank you for that. So we talked a little bit tonight about schools having different components to their applications. Can you talk a little bit about what goes into your particular school's application and what components you evaluate students on?
Okay. At St. Louis University, we have a couple decisions we have you make when you're applying to SLU. You have first either the Common App or our own web application. We don't have a preference, although for our nursing students, those that we do encourage you to apply through the Common App since we want to review everyone on that same content on that application. Other than that, you're going to need to send in your high school transcripts. We are currently test optional. We're going to get to that question, so I'll leave that little tidbit for a little bit. So right now we are test optional. We would require your essay, and then optional pieces to your application would be letters of recommendation. We have an admission interview that you can do. We have some in person as well as virtual ones that you can do with your admission counselor. Those would be some optional pieces to your application. And when you're applying to SLU, you're selecting a pathway. You're selecting either early decision 1, early decision 2, which are binding decisions. So when you're making that decision in any school, you can only apply to an early decision school, one early decision school, because you're withdrawing your application from any other institution if you are admitted to an early decision school. We have early action, and then we also have our regular decision path. So those are the pathways that you can choose when applying to SLU.
When applying to OU, we use a pie chart for this question, and so in my mind I'm picturing a pie chart, so just go with me on this analogy. The largest slice of the pie is going to be everything academics, so that will be the largest consideration that we are taking when we are reviewing a student's application. So looking at students' transcripts to see what classes they took, if they're taking more advanced classes, so that rigor, the GPA, grades, dual enrollment courses, things like that. Test scores, if they're opting into sending in test scores. Everything in the classroom and academic related, that's going to be the largest piece of the pie. The next piece, working down in size, is everything outside the classroom. So extracurricular activities, jobs, internships, volunteer work, sports, leadership positions, and honors and awards. Those will be everything in the second part. Third part is that essay that we've mentioned, and then the smallest little piece is letters of recommendation. So those are kind of our 4 main components when we are looking at a student's application.
Yeah, essentially we're looking for a lot of the same things, so just gonna say ditto, we're gonna move on.
Ditto. Real quick, so for Purdue University, we use the Common Application. We are direct admit university, so that what that means is that we are asking students to choose a major to apply directly into for their freshman year, unless you're undecided. If you're undecided, fantastic. We do have a major for you, though, to apply directly into, and it's called exploratory studies. So the slide that listed the holistic factors, those are the factors that we consider in our application. And yes, Purdue is requiring test scores next year. We've never really gone away from it. We always did require it. The past few years, we've been test flexible due to COVID. But just for some context, over 70% of our beginner applicants last year submitted test scores to us. To us, it's just another factor. We consider many factors in the review process and are really focused on what students are doing day to day and evaluating you based on the school that you come from, the rigor and the grades earned.
All right, thank you. So to piggyback off of that, let's talk a little bit about test optional. So we know Purdue is going to be requiring test scores for next year. How about at Providence, Oklahoma, as well as St. Louis?
So Providence College was one of the earliest adopters of the test optional movement, if we're going to call it that, back in the early 2000s. So we've been test optionals for like 15 years. Schools like mine, slightly more competitive, smaller, liberal arts, to give you just more of a general answer, test optional can be super confusing and very stressful for students because in theory, colleges are like, this is great. We're allowing you to choose, and the student is saying, I am stressed by having to make that choice, right? And so my general rule of thumb for students who apply to my school specifically is we really don't need it. Scott brought up a great point, and I think you can take this kind of nugget of wisdom home with you, regardless of the kind of school you're looking at. The academic record, the transcript, the types of classes, the rigor of the classes, that is going to be the most important thing at every kind of school you apply to. I'll get off my soapbox.
Good. Yeah. We will be test optional for fall 2023, 24, and 25. So if there's any sophomores or if they're at home, we will still be test optional for those years. We will make a decision for years after that when it gets a little bit closer. We're having good success with it, so I'm imagining that it will continue. My piece of advice with test optional, as you find the schools like Providence and Oklahoma that are still giving you the option to send them in or don't send them in, is to find the Megans and the me's of those schools and have a one-on-one conversation with your admissions counselor to see if it makes the most sense to send in test scores and to not send in test scores. I have a few students that I wish they would have had those conversations with me this year because I would have told them to make a decision opposite of what they chose to do. So, and I can make those conversations one-on-one, and that's kind of the perk. We're all based here, and we work with your students, so to get to know us and to really help navigate the test optional field.
I definitely would echo that. Make sure that if you have a question about if our school is required, if we're our test optional, ask us, because we will be honest with you on if we think it's going to benefit you to have it or not have it, because not having it sometimes also can really help you. As far as SLU goes, we are in our third year of our 3-year pilot program for test optional, so we are actually in the process of evaluating whether we are going to stay test optional for next year or not for 2024. So my answer is TBD. We'll find out. Hopefully this spring is what we've been talking about, is where we're at.
Awesome, thank you. So at least you have heard tonight from 4 different schools of what they're anticipating for next year. So let's talk a little bit about direct admit programs by major. I know we briefly talked about it with Purdue, that they are a direct admit school by the major that you're applying to, but can we talk a little bit more about what that process looks like at the other institutions?
Yeah, we have 3 specialty programs, I'd say, at Oklahoma where they're not necessarily direct entry, but there's just some special aspects to them. 2 of them are musical theater and dance performance. They obviously have audition components to them. Those are super competitive programs for us, so students just need to go through those audition pipelines in addition to applying to the university. The 3rd program is our aviation major. We do have 2 flying majors, so students who are interested in becoming pilots, you can definitely come and do that at OU. We only have 150 seats for those programs, and it is given to the first 150 students to apply, get accepted, and pay their deposit. And so here we are November 30th. Those spots are almost full for next year's class. So it is really important if you're interested in being a pilot at OU to apply when our application opens in August. Send us transcripts and everything as early as possible so we can admit you as soon as possible, and then you're able to pay that deposit to secure your spot. Otherwise, everything else is kind of fair game.
We are also direct entry into all of our majors, so when you apply, you're selecting the program that you want to be considered for. You can select a second choice, so maybe if you're not admissible for your first, you can be considered for your second choice. Some of our unique ones that we really have a direct entry as well as an accelerated path would be our physical therapy, our occupational therapy. We do have a direct admit nursing program as well. We have a flight science program as well, so if you'd like to fly, you can come to SLU if you can't get one of his 150, although we have less spots, so good luck. But you do have the opportunity to, yeah, you can be a pilot. So those are the programs that you can come in direct entry to, and we are considering you, and we're admitting you first into SLU, and then some of those programs like nursing, PT, OT, athletic training, as well as flight science, you find out at the time of acceptance as well.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. As a piggyback question that I always get to direct admit is, well, if I get there and I don't like my major, can I change my major? Were you going to ask that question? Okay. So the answer is, in most cases, yes. For example, Purdue has a process in place that's called CODO, Change of Degree Objective, in which students are able to transition from their majors. Nationally, I think it's about 50% of students change their majors. Same with Purdue, so it's not singular to us, and so there is a process in place. Also with the ACT and SAT, real fast, even though Purdue requires it, we will make you look as good as possible. So if you have taken the test multiple times and you send us all your scores, we will take your highest scores and use that in your evaluation, and just ignore the lower ones.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so I heard a common trend about applying early. Can you talk a little bit about your earliest deadlines and what the advantages of applying early are, and how early is too early, I guess?
I really think that there's some rumor out there that's like, if you get it in August, it shows that you are the most interested. You can certainly apply as early as you would like. Many of us, our applications will open around August 1st next summer. That said, if a school has a deadline, they then probably have a timeline internally and externally that decisions will be shared with you, and it's probably happening all at once. This is year number 17 for me in college admissions. I have worked for schools that have had deadlines that are rolling. Every school does this process a little bit differently. I think the most important thing, regardless of when the deadline is to get it in before the day before the deadline. We all procrastinate. It's human nature. But even though everything is submitted electronically, there's still a human on the other end that is processing your documents to ensure everything is matched up to you specifically. And that can take a little bit of time. And so I think it's important to try to pace yourself and work through. Your chart was so great of trying to target these different kinds of schools that you would apply to, but ensuring that you're getting things in prior to the deadline, not right before, and knowing that it could take some time to get everything in. That said, we're very much like SLU in that our first deadline is November 1st. Those decisions will go out depending on how you applied in either November or December. And then our regular decision deadline isn't until January. And so that means you're going to hear in March. And that's every person, whether they applied in December of senior year or in January of senior year. If they meet the regular decision deadline, they are going to hear in March. Does that make sense? Enough? Complicated. We've made this complicated. Okay? So if you have questions, just ask us about what is best at our individual schools, because the answer might change depending on the kind of school or the program that you're applying to.
I will add one thing too as far as deadlines, right? So tomorrow, December 1st, is our deadline for early action. There are also deadlines for scholarships and scholars programs that the deadline is December 1st. You can't apply for those unless your application is in. So this is why, even though the deadline is December 1st, you should not be submitting it at December 1st, 11:59 p.m., even though it's technically still on time. That's fine. We will still review it. You are on time, but that means you've limited now your opportunity to apply for any other extra programs. So when you are doing your research, make sure that you know not only when the deadlines are, but if there are applications and processes for you to submit for other scholarships and other things. I'm sorry if I'm stealing thunder already.
Okay, so while we're talking about scholarships, can we hear about how you do handle the review processes for scholarships, if there's a separate application, and then how you're considered with admission with that?
I'll start. With SLU and with many schools, there is a merit scholarship that you are considered for automatically. So in many schools, you will apply, your application is automatically considered for a scholarship based off of what we receive. And usually it's just academics, right? Your GPA as well as your test scores if you have them in that. So that is nothing you need to do for a lot of schools. And again, finding out what an individual school does for that. So SLU, we would consider you for a merit scholarship automatically. You don't have to do anything. We do have separate scholarships. We have two competitive scholarships. We have our presidential scholarship, which is a full tuition scholarship that we offer for students that you would come to campus for an interview to go through that process. That has a deadline of December 1st, like I mentioned, that you have to apply for. And then we also have our Martin Luther King Jr. scholarship, which has more of a focus on service, social justice, and that has a deadline of February 1st. So we do too have two separate scholarships that you can apply to during the admission process if you are qualified for based off of your GPA as well as the things that you've been involved in outside, because that is now taking into consideration leadership and service and things like that. So merit automatically and then application for some others.
At OU, we build everything that we use for scholarship consideration into our application, so it is all considered, whether it's merit or non-merit based, and our deadline is December 15th every single year. So as long as you apply between August 1st and December 15th, you'll then be eligible for all of our scholarships. Every year I have some folks saying, why didn't I get that scholarship? Well, you applied on December 31st, and so you missed the 3.5-month window. So don't miss that window, and again, we build everything in there just to make it easier to navigate.
Hi. So Purdue, if you apply by November 1st, which is our early action deadline, you're automatically considered for merit-based scholarships. There's no separate application for it. And we use the same holistic factors in admissions with our scholarship decisions. There is a separate scholarship application that applicants can fill out that's due December 15th. But here's what I'm gonna give to you, my piece of advice that I give to high school students when I meet with them. Is that and you might already have a document like this, but I encourage my students to, no matter what university they're applying to, create an Excel file, put an alert on your cell phone, whatever you need to do with the different scholarships and the university's deadline so that it's all in one place. You don't have to think about it. The alert can just come to you. I need to make sure I apply for that scholarship. It's due in 5 days. Make sure you apply for it. And if you don't know where to find these scholarship deadlines or what is being offered at those universities or colleges, that's when you can connect with one of us or your college counselor here at school and talk with them about that. But that way, it's gonna streamline it, it's gonna make it easier for you, because as you can see, we all have a different process, right? That's a lot to handle and to keep in your mind. So it's just a piece of advice.
One quick note, if you are involved in performing arts at all and you plan to major in performing arts, that usually has a separate process for scholarship consideration. You might be asked to submit a portfolio if it's like an art, studio art kind of program. You might have an audition if you're a theater major, a music major, a dance major. And lots of times the scholarship, the talent award can be tied to that. So just quick caveat with the conversation we're having about academic merit money, that is usually a separate thing at the schools that have them.
All right, so I would like to talk a little bit more about taking our grading scale into consideration. And can you talk about when it comes down to reviewing a student's application, how you look at Carmel Catholic students, and then talk about particularly for senior year. If our students do perform well in their senior year classes, will that also be taken into consideration?
Fun fact, so I'm old enough that I was here doing a junior night when Carmel changed their grading scale to what it is now. And it was a big to-do, and everything has worked out fine since then, hasn't it? We're all here and we're smiling about it, right, everybody? Okay, here's what I will tell you. At a school like mine, we are test optional. I told you we've been test optional since '06. That's not going anywhere. We recalculate GPAs. So we will look at core academic classes, and for Catholic schools, that includes religion or theology or whatever you want to call it. So all of those classes get recalculated into a separate GPA. So we're a little bit different than probably some of the people on this panel. This is the first school that I have worked for that does something like that. At previous institutions, the academic record gets reviewed, the transcript gets reviewed based on the context of the school profile. And that's why the school profile is so important. We are part of an organization that has about 100 or so members, little over 100 members from schools across the country that have people who live here who work with the Chicagoland area, who work with the Midwest. So you can rest assured that you have knowledgeable admission counselors who know what it's like to attend Carmel Catholic. And I think going into the review process, that is a part of the consideration. And I think you're spot on when you say that in your presentation, this idea of contextually speaking. I think parents and students start to get caught up in like the comparison of people, and it's really more of, did you prepare yourself appropriately to go on to college? And that answer of yes or no is going to be different at the different kinds of schools across the country, but that's really what we are trying to discern. At all of the schools I've ever worked for, we sit down and say, has this student prepared themselves to move into the rigors of a college curriculum? And if the answer is yes, we move them forward.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yes.
Okay.
So we were talking a little bit about taking our grading scale into
Yes.
consideration when
Yes.
looking at GPAs.
Yes.
And will you take into consideration if a student does well their senior year and if their grades have continued to improve over high school?
Okay, so one, for Purdue, we have, again, a holistic review using those factors that were listed in the previous slide, which means you are reviewed as an individual coming from this specific high school. So we know the school profile is very important to us because we can see in your evaluation, all right, this student's applying into the first year engineering program. Here's the classes they took freshman through senior year. Senior year is very, very important. Senior year is important because it is preparing you for your first year of college. It's not about can you get into the college. It's can you succeed that first year of college and continue on to graduate? That's what we're looking for. So senior is really important to prepare yourself. Now, with that said, yes, the grading scale is taken into consideration. The classes that are being offered to you here versus the course selection that you have selected for yourself. Obviously, we know that there's certain classes that you have to take before other ones. Senior year grades, we typically don't see them. We see freshman through junior year grades, freshman through senior year courses. Now, if a student has a decision in which they are able to send us their 7th semester grades, which is first semester senior year, then we would take that into consideration.
I think the only thing I would add is, again, based off of your major too, can can play a role in what we're looking at on your senior year transcripts. So for example, like our nursing or our med scholars, programs like that where they're heavy science bases, we are really making sure that you've done that 4th year of science and that 4th year of math, and you're meeting those requirements for us. So again, what Jen said, making sure you're prepared for when you're coming in and going into that program. So that's going to be the biggest thing, because at that point you're already hopefully admitted by the time we're getting those mid-year grades, and you just don't want to have Fs on those grades in that senior year, right? Still keep going strong.
Awesome, thank you. So I want to be cognizant of everyone's time tonight. I'd like to wrap up just with each of you giving your best piece of advice for our juniors right now.
Visit. No. I actually take it a step further with visit. Obviously, like every school sends you a brochure that has great looking students, not a cloud in the sky. It's the most beautiful clock tower with the prettiest water fountains. Everything is gorgeous. Everyone's wearing their SLU gear. We do that on purpose, right? We want you to think that it looks awesome so that you do come and visit. So the only way you can truly, truly tell if a school is a good fit for you is getting on a college campus, right? Go visit a large public school. Go visit a school further away. Go visit a small school. Go visit a mid-sized school. Figure out what is a good fit for you by getting on that college campus. And a step further than that is after you do that official visit with the school, because it's important to do that official visit, hang around, right? Go hang out at the Starbucks that the students are at on campus. Go hang out in the library. Talk to current students. Go to the area around, because it's not just the campus you're going to be spending your 4 years. You're finding your home for 4 years. So you need to know that the area that you're in has a lot to do, or has things that you can be active in, things that you want to be involved in. So really take advantage of your time when you're on a campus, especially if you're spending time flying out to Rhode Island or to Oklahoma. Even us, we're, 5 hours away. You want to make sure that it is, you're spending the most of your time and getting everything you possibly can out of it and interacting with as many people, because it may only be one visit you get to go to on that college campus. So that's my little piece of advice, which is long. Sorry.
Jennifer kind of already hinted at one, and that's spreadsheets and staying organized and keeping like deadlines and things in there. That's a big one that I always say. And then my other one is, when you're looking at colleges and universities, you might have an intended major like that your heart is so set on, and you're like, I really want to study neuroscience, or I really want to go and be in pre-dentistry to become a dentist. And then you might do that, and you find that chemistry is not your friend, and you're not going to end up that far into a pre-dentistry program. I'm not speaking from experience. So make sure that the schools you're looking into also have backup majors just in case chemistry is not your friend. And then you can study something else. Maybe chemistry will be your best friend and you're gonna be the most amazing dentist in the entire world. That's gonna be awesome. And then you had backup options just in case. So I know some students especially do not wanna hear my second or third choice major, but if you get too deep into a school and then you find out they didn't even have the major that you wanted, or the major's too difficult, you might have to look at transferring schools, and it's a whole nother process. So just make sure that the schools you're looking at have backup majors just in case you don't become a dentist.
Might be my favorite story. Okay, 2 things really quickly. As someone who started in a major and then switched, every kind of school, big, small, public, private, we all have some kind of program for undecided students. They all have different names, but they are out there, so don't feel stressed if you don't know what you want to do. We will help you figure that out. Second, really quick thing, use the resources around you. You all are so lucky. You have an incredible college counselor. We exist to help you from our perspective, so ask questions and get information. That's what we're here to do. We work in tandem together to ensure that you feel comfortable and confident making this kind of first big adult decision, and have fun. Okay.
First, my advice to juniors is to breathe. Parents too, and get ready, because it's going to be a ride. But you know what it's like first semester coming in. Think about junior year, right? You came in August, it was summer, new course load, new teachers, sports, work, clubs, whatever it is you all do. Now throw college applications on top of that. Ask your senior friends. They were overwhelmed. It's overwhelming. So prepare now. You have all the resources in place. You have the people you can connect with. You're lucky to go to this school. The resources that are available to you are amazing. But students, start making a list. Write down all the activity. I like spreadsheets. Write down all the activities. Activities include outside responsibilities, family responsibilities, works, clubs, camps, organizations, volunteering, leadership, sports, whatever it is you do, you all do something, whether it's one thing, 5 things, 2 things, 3 things. Start making a list of what you've done starting freshman year. It's going to be so much easier when you're filling out your college application. So start thinking about that. So that's my big piece of advice, and it looks like you're already going to be prepared. So, yep, breathe. You're all going to end up exactly where you're supposed to be. You have to trust in the process.
Well, that was some really great advice. I hope all of you took that to heart. I hope all of you found this panel informative. Let's give it up for our amazing panelists. They are some great resources. They are great assets to our school. And I really encourage all of you to connect with your regional college reps when the time comes. So that concludes our evening. Like I said, I'll put my contact info back up. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can always reach out to your student's counselor as well, and we are excited to partner with you on this process. Thank you so much for coming.